you're the alcoholic that's at the bar, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot be close to a bar or else you're going to drink. And that's how you got to treat this phone addiction.
Well, not a lot of experts are saying we should even be sleeping in the same room with our phone. You know, and myself included, sometimes we'll be like waking up in the morning and the first thing, what do we grab is our phone? We're not even out of bed yet. It is definitely, you know, a major addiction, but we've got to figure out, I think, also ways of just naturally creating dopamine, especially in children, and artificially, you know, done with these devices.
Funny how.
Come here though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
It's great to get to know you. I'm excited about hearing about your story and your background. You got a lot going on. So if you can, just kind of maybe give us a quick origin story of what you do currently and your background and all that jazz.
Sure. Well, first, I just want to thank you for inviting me here and inviting me on the show. So my name is Dr. Albert Bramante. I've been a talent agent, college professor for 21 years at this point, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. And I really love what I'm doing, in a sense. And I get to work with actors all day long. You know, I get to work with students, too. So primarily my job as an agent is to find employment, find gigs, and that's what I do. However, you know, in my years of working with so many performers, a lot of mental struggles and issues come in, such as imposter syndrome, self-doubt, fear of success, and all the like, in a sense. That's what I essentially do. And one of the topics I like to talk about, and hence I wrote, a book about it, was the idea of, self-sabotage and just how we get in our own way. Sometimes the mental blocks that can come in, self-doubt, fear of success, all these different things that can be in our way.
Of course.
Essentially of somewhat of our own doing.
Yeah, especially now with the last couple of decades with social media, it's been, we are the epitome of self-defecating. It is.
Absolutely. And it's a paradox, I often feel, with social media. Yeah. And what I mean by a paradox, it's the fact that it's supposed to be designed to bring us together, which it does. Sure. However, at the same time, it's isolating. It's also isolating us, and it's causing us a major addiction. We get a major dopamine rush from what we call doom scrolling. For 2 hours, sometimes long periods of time.
Sure.
But the unfortunate thing is, very rarely do we ever sit doom scrolling and feeling good about something. Usually, we'll start to feel more anxious or more upset or angry or triggered by the things that we're looking at.
Sure. Yeah.
Or even just upset because we're seeing some shocking things. Because very often, people post, a lot of things to get our attention. Yeah. And some of that stuff might not exactly be positive things that we need to be looking at. A lot of it can be just a negative spot as well, negative stuff as well.
Yeah, more often than not, right? It's very rare that you see people talking good about other people on social media for two reasons. I think it's because we like John Wick, we like Mission Impossible and Transformer movies and things that are destructive and chaotic. And I think social media companies know that, obviously. So, they're going to feed you more so of the negative anyway, similar to how a news outlet does, because they know that's going to get more clicks, more views, more attention. Because fear is ultimately, I think, the driver of any civilization, whether that is innovation or survival. Fear is always going to be that ingredient that gets us human beings to a new level, and not in a good level. It's right. You could find it in your own personal life as well. It's your fear of losing money is why you work harder. Fear of literally. You could take your pick where that does drive us, and that's a little terrifying to me personally as a new father. So that's why I'm interested to kind of hear your take on all this stuff from a psychological standpoint. But I find myself changing constantly as well, becoming more empathetic, becoming more fearful of the world that we do live in. And there's a lot of great things to be grateful for and excited about in this world. But I think the one thing we all can agree is we have become less connected because of these devices. And it's not something new or, out of the normal, because we saw it, with the birth of Atari and Dreamcast and PlayStation and Nintendo. Kids spend more time. Right. Kids spend more time. Like me, I'm 40 years old, so I was a 90s kid. And I spent a lot of time playing Duck Hunter and Mario Kart and 007, GoldenEye. And I spent time doing that. But the differences between social media and those days was that stuff wasn't designed to get you addicted like CoComelon is and and Instagram and TikTok is. Those things are physically designed and researched and designed to get us addicted. These Atari games and all the stuff back in the day, just psychologically, it wasn't so stimulating to where you needed to have it. You needed to grab it. And you can find yourself being addicted to these things if you just either videotape yourself or have your spouse document it. But when you put down your phone, it doesn't take long for you to grab it for no reason whatsoever. That's an addict.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times it's a security blanket. It has to do with that too.
Sure.
And it just becomes a thing that's wired in us. And most of the time, it's even if you point it out, like, oh, you're looking at your phone again, or put your phone down. Some people don't even realize they're doing it. Like, I didn't even realize I was holding my phone. I didn't even realize I was checking my phone.
Yeah.
And, now again, I'm a little bit, older than you, but I remember a time when these things didn't exist.
That's right.
We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, all of these, apps at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And I think we were also more present with each other as a society.
Totally.
And, as a connection thing. And, I think one of the things that our brains rooted is for survival, but also to allude to what you were saying, it becomes a different ball game when a child is involved, a new child, because now it's not just your survival, it's, your genetic lineage.
That's right.
That has to also be so important too. And therefore, this is why, the anxiety is increasing, because it's, we're supposed to be providers and protectors of our young, and that's
And I think not that that my parents or your parents had it better, because I think we all could agree that things have gotten increasingly better in the world as a whole over the decades. Even just the last 50 years have been incredible. But I think the one thing that I've talked to my parents about, where they kind of like, they're not so immersed into social media and into content and all the stuff as I am. So they might kind of like think of it, as not that big of a deal. But even just a tablet that we don't give our kid, or not even our phones, do we let her understand what that is unless it's FaceTiming somebody? Because, and you could probably speak more to this, but just the fact of a young mind that's not fully developed, pushing that and realizing swiping it and those movements that you do from a touchscreen, that dopamine hit in a young child is a serious fucking problem. Like,
it sure is.
People do not understand when you even let your kid just play a little bit with the apps. Try to take that thing away from your kid after a couple minutes. They're going to have the biggest tantrum you've ever seen in your life. That's not because they want to play with it. They don't know what it is. It's just that their brain is telling them, yo, I need more of that. Give me that. Whatever that is, give me more of that. Similar to if you take a beer away from an alcoholic. And these kids that are 2-3 years old that are just swiping on the tablet all day, even 30 minutes a day is a lot. Like, we're even strict with TV. Like, even, with TVs, talk about the good old days. We have our kid watch like Bear in the Big Blue House, Barney, Bambi, like the old school Bambi, black and white movies, like old school Disney stuff. Not like, the crazy high color, high contrast movies that like Super Mario, our kid is never going to see that movie. And I love that movie.
Yeah.
But it is way too overstimulating. And these kids, once they get that, once they know what that is and it exists in their life, they always want that. And they will go crazy if they don't get that. And that is very hard for a parent because we also struggle with what? We struggle with trying to get work done. And, you know, you want to have free time to scroll yourself maybe. Maybe you want to watch TikTok videos, but your kid is needing attention 24/7. So you're like, let me just throw on Coco Melon for a bit. Little do you know, just doing that for a few minutes every day, it has shown, these psychological studies have shown some very serious negative effects to these kids' brain development.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they just did a study out of like, I think it was California, that they looked at like the Gen Z and millennial, and the work ethic has plummeted. You know, like not only has the work ethic plummeted, but also the sociability, the extra, you know, the amount of people like actually socializing as, you know, actual socializing. Because I don't consider, again, chatting on Facebook or Instagram socializing.
Sure.
I'm talking about like real life, authentic,
you
know, having conversations with real people. That's declined tremendously over the past, you know, generations, because again of the rise of everything. And you know, and you see a lot of people who say, or hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I prefer texting over phone. I prefer to," you know, and it's like, is that healthy? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think it is. You know, the fact
that's
that
a problem. Yeah,
you're looking at all that, because for me, I don't like to text. You know, I mean, maybe if I'm on my way or something, or if I might text, but I don't like to have full-on text. I'd rather pick up the phone and have a conversation, or actually go physically see that person and have a conversation.
Yeah.
So, and nothing good comes out of doom scrolling. It's not like, okay, I've looked, you know, I spent 15, 20 minutes, and now I feel better. Again, I feel worse.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And there was a study, I think published around 2018, 2019, that there was a high correlation between Instagram use and depression.
Yeah, I think that was the same study with young girls, right? Where the suicide rates went up as well. Was that the same study?
Yeah, I believe so. But you know, but it was definitely looked at with girls in a sense.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, because there's even been reports saying that Meta in particular, the way they target ads, you know, if you spend less than, you know, I think it's, I'm trying to, I don't want to paraphrase this, but I'm almost positive it was, if you take a photo or you hesitate in uploading a video or a photo on their platform, they attribute that to you don't like how you look. So if you're a girl in a certain demographic, in a certain age bracket, you're going to get targeted ads for beauty stuff, wellness stuff, just because you know you want to make yourself look better, so that way you can post more of yourself. So if you're self-conscious, you're going to get served more of those ads, and that is bonkers. Because even if it's slightly true, or even if it's not true, the fact that it's out there, and you know that these type of companies, that's what they want from us. They want us to stay on those phones constantly and upload as much as we can, stay engaged. You're even rewarded in some of these things, like in TikTok and Instagram, with more followers and more likes and more views and higher engagement. I know that just from experience being a content creator and a podcaster. If I talk about controversial stuff on this podcast and I use that as a clip, that gets more views than educational stuff like we're talking about today. It's and it's disappointing, because I think you're right. I think conversations are so important, and unfortunately, you know, it gets treated with either violence, which unfortunately we saw with Charlie Kirk. No matter what side of the spectrum anybody is on that's listening, that's just a horrible thing, because that's a person, especially a husband and a father, that was trying to just have conversations with people. I didn't agree with a lot of stuff he said, but someone that literally went against everything that you and I do on a daily basis, which is doom scrolling and having conversations in the chat room and the DM. This guy was like, forget that. Let me travel the world and have face-to-face debates with people that actually hate me. Like that dude got so much hate, and he sat there and just took it. And, unfortunately he paid a horrible price for it. And we don't get a lot of that. We don't get a lot of conversations from people. And I think that's a big reason why people, maybe head towards the violent route, is because they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to debate like a Charlie Kirk. They don't know how to have conversations, because for the last 10 years, 20 years, they've only been in the comments negatively talking shit to people that they don't know. They're saying Kim Kardashian looks ugly. They're saying, Bradley Cooper, you're a bad actor. They're saying, Jim Carrey, you're not funny. They're so comfortable with talking shit and being negative online that when they do see someone like a Charlie Kirk in real life, this is when it becomes so abruptly just aggressive.
Yeah.
And I think that dopamine hit that we get, we're like living on that high and that anger, and we act, and it's tribal and it's disgusting. But I don't know if there's a way to turn this clock back. Do you?
I'm not sure. At least it's going to be beyond our pay grade to do that.
Sure.
To be able to do that, but I know what you mean. And war, it's like people are not or less tolerant to hear about different viewpoints that they may not agree with.
Right.
And but it is that sensationalism and things like that. And you're right. And also these apps cross track what you do. So if you ever notice when you Google something, and next thing you know, there's ads popping up on TikTok and Facebook or even LinkedIn on stuff that you're Googling about. I've even found it, and now I know this is true, but my first real hard thing about this was, remember I was having a conversation with somebody about a particular product I was looking, curious about.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, what do I see ads for? That product. And, then I also heard that a lot of companies now, a lot of cell phones are recording.
Listening.
Even though they listening devices. And I'm like, that's scary. But I think what we can start doing is like what you're doing, is start, individually, raising, children to have more real life social interactions and minimizing the amount of things. So it's very easy, again, to put them in front of a TV and put them in front of a computer or put them in front of an iPad, because it's stimulating and it's definitely catching on. It's definitely a dopamine utilizer. And when things got dopamine, because dopamine's the biggest thing. You activate some dopamine, you pretty much have them wrapped around your finger or whatever that is.
That's
and going without an addiction. And most people, the thing that what's scary about addiction is a lot of people don't even realize that they're addicted. Because I remember I had a couple of friends who, this is back in the 90s, that were chronic marijuana users, weed users. And they would tell you in every step of the way, I'm not addicted, those, only fools get addicted to drugs. But meanwhile, one night we were kind of out and their supply ran out, and you literally saw them getting visibly anxious and shaken and irritable. A bunch of us who were not, we were kind of pointing it at them, like, you say you're not addicted, but why are you getting so tense now? Yeah. It's sad, but that's the truth.
Well, and, a lot of people, I think, might get offended by some of that talk, because they say, well, there's a lot of good to it and yada, yada. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, there may be. I'm not denying that at all.
Right.
But there's good to anything in excess can be bad.
Correct, yeah. And by the way, as someone who was a drug user in his 20s, which I'm completely sober now of booze and drugs completely, but every drug is awesome. Let me just say, it's fantastic. Every drug is great. I can't speak now because I haven't had any in quite some time for a reason, and that's because even weed is quadruple the dose of THC that it was in the 90s. It's laced with God only knows what. cocaine is mixed with fentanyl and is killing people rapidly. It's I've there's not a lot of times that I've said this, but it's not worth doing drugs anymore. It's just it's not worth it.
Well, even go back to the thing about marijuana potency. Now, what we're seeing now lately, and this is something I even like newly discovered. I never did marijuana, but I can tell you from one thing I'm seeing now is a high rate of anxiety, that weed is causing anxiety, and almost to a point of paranoia.
Yeah,
like there was an article
I've heard too.
last year that a bunch of people were going into like self-proclaiming checking into psychiatric wards, and emergency rooms because of extreme paranoia.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't think that is normal THC. I think it either is somewhat modified some way or something else mixed in there, because I never knew THC to be that anxiety-inducing. It's supposed to do the opposite. It's supposed to calm you down, not get you more agitated.
Yeah.
But I think that also falls into the nature of like anything that's too much. Because even alcohol, there's other people who love, having their drink, and that's great.
Yeah.
But too much of that will actually kill you, and hurt you. And so there's anything, even food or sex or anything like that. When it's in excess, it's not, it's not healthy.
It's not healthy. Yeah. I think it's just human beings as a whole where we just, this drive to innovate and to top everything. And even from the very, minuscule things in your daily life. For example, I might tell a story of like what happened to me, on my last vacation in a group of friends. And then one of those friends might be like, yeah, you know what? And this happened, which it was way more crazy. It's that thing where we have to be better. We have to top. Like whether it's an individual person or a group of people or an entire nation, like in America where we always want to be first on everything, first to the moon, first with AI, first with this, first with that. It's just this instinctual, tribal, weird thing that we have to do where weed in the 70s wasn't good for the 90s. It has to be better. And weed in the 90s wasn't good enough. We have to have more potent THC, and we have to make our coke better and our ecstasy better and this better, because people just built up an immunity to it because, like you said, overuse, and your body adapts to it, and we have to make things more potent. And it's going to get to a point where I think there's going to be like, in those movies, I don't know if you've seen like the recent Batman with Robert Pattinson, but that whole universe of like, they have drops where they call it, I forget the drug that they call it. I think they might call it drops. It's in the Penguin show as well on HBO Max, but they have this drug that no drugs compare. So they create these eye drops, and the drops go in your eye, and that's how you get like a crazy high. I think it's going to get to a point where we're going to like invent a new drug just to appease this high that we need, because all the other drugs, the coke, the heroin, the fentanyl, the weed, it's not good enough. We need to create a synthetic drug that gets us more high than we could possibly imagine. For what? Just to put us in a world that, we don't belong in. It's a fake world that we don't belong in. We want to put ourselves there. It's fascinating.
And who knows what could happen, because if you're doing, especially in an unnatural way like that, putting that in your body, in this synthetic chemical in your body, what that's going to do to you. And
that's right.
That's why there's a lot of even a lot of accidental deaths due to drugs, because people
experimentation,
experimentation. Back, when I was, again, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a rise of MDMA, ecstasy.
Sure.
And there were a lot of people that were, not a lot, but there was a number. I mean, any number of deaths is too many.
Sure.
But there were some people that were overdosing on one pill. They took ecstasy for the first time and had a cardiac event.
Sure. Yeah.
So
it can happen. It can happen to anybody, and it's only getting worse. And I think if you can remove addictions like that, whether it's drugs, booze, your phone, if you can remove those addictions, you get moments back. You know, like the one thing I've been using a lot lately, especially with my phone, because I've definitely noticed since our kid was born, she's just turned 2 actually, but the last 2 years I've really been able to reflect, and working from home, me and my wife, we kind of split shifts, and we take turns putting her down at night and all this stuff. And it really makes you think and reflect the amount of time that you spend, doing things. And then you realize you don't have time to do other stuff, i.e. scrolling, i.e. hanging out with friends and going drinking, right? Because you don't want to come back hungover to deal with a 2-year-old. It's ill-advised. But I've realized through this time, like especially with my phone, that if me and my wife were sitting down having dinner or whatever, and I pick up my phone real quick, I'm checking an email. Next thing you know, boom, Instagram, boom, TikTok. Right, I'm on there for 20 minutes. She goes, "Hey, not at the table," and I go, "I'm not even scrolling that long." Like I found myself kind of getting a little offended. Like she would even, "How dare you, woman, tell me that?" And then that's when I realized, this was a year and a half ago, and I'm like, I need to do something. Yeah. And I needed to find some sort of solution because, like iPhone has the time limit thing where you can put on where like shuts off your apps or whatever, right? Have you seen this?
Yeah.
You could just click dismiss. It's not
of
that
course.
There's no
that's yeah.
It doesn't work.
I think that was more of them trying to come say, "Look, we're trying to help."
Yeah, we care about your mental health. Well, let's install this little thing. But I found this company called Brick, which if you don't know, it's very interesting. You should check it out. But it's like this little like device. It's the size of, I don't know, like a $50 or something. And it's magnetic, so you can put it on the fridge, you can put it on the table, whatever. And it essentially uses the same technology that you use Apple Pay for, where you have to like scan it and unlock things. So what you do is you select certain apps that you want it to block. And when you scan your phone, it turns off all your apps. There's no fail-safe. You can't unlock them unless you physically get up again and tap it. And I put that shit far away from where I'm at. Like I'm upstairs working. I put that thing down on the fridge. And I would literally have to go downstairs, open up the Brick app, tap it against the fridge to unlock it, go back upstairs, and then doom scroll. And I've never done it. I went from like being on my phone for 4 or 5 hours a day combined on all social media apps to now I'm down to like 35 minutes a day. And that's because I'm literally, you have to get this, you're the alcoholic that's at the bar, bro. You have to get far away from a bar. You know what I mean? Like you cannot be close to a bar or else you're going to drink. And that's how you got to treat this phone addiction.
Well, not a lot of experts are saying we should even be sleeping in the same room with our phone.
That's right.
Because many of us, and myself included, sometimes will be like waking up in the morning and the first thing, what do we grab is the phone? We're not even out of bed yet. And
that's right.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah.
So it is definitely, a major addiction, but it's the dopamine
sure
thing. So we've got to figure out, I think, also ways of just naturally creating dopamine, especially in children, and without artificially, done with these devices.
Yeah. One thing we've been trying to live by is, and again, we're fortunate because we both work at home, but kind of just doing what I did as a kid, being outside more than inside. And that's easier said than done, obviously, depending on where you live. I mean, I live in the Sunshine State. So if you're in Cali, Texas, Florida, you got year-long great weather, so you can go outside all the time. But, I have my kid, like when we're on walks, she's picking up sticks. She's grabbing lizards and putting it in her hand. Like, I want her to experience the world that I experienced, which was, it's profoundly beautiful and exciting. And we can't even comprehend everything that is outside of our 4 walls. It's like there is so much going on. And if you just get out of the 4 walls and start touching the grass and, you know, looking at the sky differently and seeing the stars at night. It is just, you let your imagination be your dopamine. And I think that's a really good first step for parents is you just have to get them out of the house, man. Cause there's so much shit going on outside the house. You know, you go to a farmer's market, you let them touch handmade soap and you let them shop with you and pick tomatoes. And, you know, we were up with family in Omaha over the weekend and she picked purple beans, which I didn't know that was a thing. But she picked them and then we went inside and you cook them and they turn green, like green beans.
Yeah.
And they taste kind of like edamame. You put a little sea salt on them. So she's 2, right? She doesn't understand this concept of I just picked something. I went into the kitchen, I cooked it and I ate it. Like, that's dopamine, bro. That's 10 times the amount of caffeine that you would get in a day. That will take a 2-year-old brain and really mold it to this thing. Now, you can't do that year long, right? I get it, depending on where you are. But if you could find ways to do it, that's a really good first step, you know?
100%. Yeah, it's all about, you know, getting better sources of dopamine is what we all need because this way, otherwise we become just slaves to everything.
And you know, I want to preface this by saying, I don't want this to be an anti-technology episode, but
no, not at all. But, I mean, we do need it.
We need it, and
you know,
and here's the reason why we're talking about this so intently is because it is awesome. It is the greatest thing that human beings have ever come up with. Social media, technology, quantum computers, like all this stuff, AI. I want to talk to you about that before we go. But all this stuff is so amazing and incredible. But similar to ecstasy and coke, we got to keep it out of our kids' hands. Yeah. Right? And
even moderate it ourselves some level too.
Correct.
Because it can be, you know, again, a problem.
That's right.
For that.
Yeah. Well, especially with AI, like what's your thoughts, you know, because if you're talking to people in your field and, you know, you're talking to young people and folks that are kind of like, they're going to grow up with nothing but AI. Like in a decade, that's going to be everywhere, right? It's already everywhere now, but I think in a decade, we're going to be in trouble. There's going to be a lot going on. Like, what are your thoughts on kind of the growth and where it's headed?
Both, it's a mix of, again, both excitement and a little bit of apprehension. And I'll explain why. The excitement is because, again, it can do so much. It can be a great tool and a great help, and especially, you know, if you're a business owner or any type of working entrepreneur, it's an amazing concept that can do a lot of great stuff.
That's right.
And it's good for research. They can really learn a lot now, and you have everything at the fingertips. That's the valuable part of it. What I find concerned with is people turning to AI for companionship or even for therapy, counseling, coaching. Because AI is not, there's limitations to it. You know, there's, as great as the tool it may be for, again, for business and technology and automation, it is still a very limited tool. It's only it's only text, especially like a text thing. It doesn't really have emotions. There's no emotion to it. Right. And what I'm seeing is a lot of proliferation on, you know, people turning to AI for therapy. Again, how is, you know, again, it may tell you, like, be able to quote you things out of books, give you some platitudes and quotes. That's great. But that's not therapy. Yeah. That's not, you know, how is it going to calibrate on your nonverbal, your facial expressions and life experience? It cannot do that. Yeah. And therefore, you know, it doesn't know how to respond. It's not designed to do that. Even the Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, ChatGPT, had publicly said that, look, this is not what I created, you know, ChatGPT for. But like in anything, a lot of times it just balloons and gets out of hand. And I'm sure you may be familiar with the case about a month ago that was in the news about the 16-year-old who took his life. And the family is suing OpenAI and ChatGPT. I have my slight reservation with that. I don't know too much about that. Like, I'm not entirely sure ChatGPT is 100% to blame in this situation.
And correct me if
Because-
I'm wrong, is that the one that he was asking it for advice and then AI
Yeah.
told him to take his life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical with that.
Right.
You know,
Paraphrasing, I'm sure
fully.
it wasn't that, but yeah.
And now, what I do think, though, is there was no guardrails in there about
Suicide.
censor should have been in
Yeah.
that, or it should. From an ethical standpoint, if you see, again, if they have all this other stuff, the algorithms can pick up and should be able to pick up topics of self-harm or harming somebody else, and even at the point if they're able to track you down, I know that's easily.
Right.
They should have some type of feature in there that may alert authorities, or somehow in there, or trip something up.
Yeah.
That this is happening, because it's not. That would be my only concern, but or it doesn't know how to stop. And I noticed, like, when I use ChatGPT, and I'm gonna kind of fool around and experiment with it, it's not obviously going that far, but where it would just somehow be very agreeable. That's
Right.
great, but that's not accurate.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
if this kid was talking about ways to harm himself,
It
the
probably
problem
just
is it could have
fed off that.
or it could have said, yes, statistics have said this is the best way to commit suicide.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you ask it, how do I make a bomb? It's not going to say, don't make a bomb. It's going to say, here's how you make a bomb.
Here's how to make a bomb, or it might say something like, but I suggest you don't do that.
Correct.
And instead of saying, I'm not going to, flat out do this. I'm not going to give you this information.
Versus, to your point, an actual psychologist would say, hey, man, let's figure out why you're thinking that way. And let's let's talk about it. Right. But unfortunately, like Altman said, which is so funny because that's exactly what the CEO of Skynet said. Hey, I didn't mean for this to turn into a Terminator movie. But it's interesting that he goes down this route where he pretty much says AI is now doing its thing. And that's a little terrifying, I think, because we're going to get to a point to where they're already like working on robots that look like males and females. And if you could put an AI style ChatGPT style into this robot, you have a companion for life. And that is going to further disconnect us from each other, because we're already at the point to where it's dangerous mentally and physically how disconnected we are. And now it's to the point to where, like Instagram, TikTok, ChatGPT is very addicting. I talk to a lot of people, and I love ChatGPT. I use it every day, but I use it for business and to make money because it's a tool. You got to use it as a tool.
It's a tool. That's all it is.
And if you start using it like something that you deserve or something that you need on a daily basis, you got a real problem. Because not only are you, again, getting further disconnected away from human interaction, but you're not learning anything. Like I found myself, especially just having an Alexa, and Alexa is like a very, that was like, that was so 10 years ago, like who cares? But I don't even know math anymore as good as I did, because anytime I have a crazy problem, like, hey, what's 100 times 56.5? And it 2 seconds pops it out. And I realized that I wasn't doing the math. So now I'm trying to, literally catch myself and then write it down on paper, try to figure out. If I can't figure it out, I'll grab a calculator. If I can't do it with the calculator, then I'll ask Alexa. But if our brain develops, right, based off what we do, based off the books you read, based off the human interaction, like it adapts. It's very intelligent and smart. And the less you do with that, the stupider you're going to get. That's just a fact.
Yeah. Well, there's now people coming out saying that, that chronic use of AI is actually going to be detrimental in shrinking our brain and our neurons in our brain.
Oh yeah, didn't they do like a neurological scan or something? Did I see that?
Yeah. Well, there was actually a large podcast about that about a couple weeks ago with some of the experts I believe it was a Diary of a CEO did something like that, but I'm sure there are others.
Yeah.
But that definitely just shows that and that goes back to what we were kind of saying throughout the entire interview. Too much of anything is a problem.
That's
but
right.
Again, I think it could be used as a tool. I think it's important to learn it, and I think there's usually two problems with AI: not trying to deny the existence and not using it, but then also at the same time, another problem is using it too much.
Right.
And again, it is, on one hand, it's great that it's developing a lightning speed. Like there's new advances like every day practically, but it's also, again, concerning because where's the guardrails?
Yeah.
And where do we draw the line between ethics and profit?
Yeah. Yeah, and if history has taught us anything, profit always wins.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, there's even pick your favorite charity, your favorite foundation. They make a lot of money. Okay, the CEO gets paid a lot. There is no good people out there, and that's not saying that humans aren't good. I think the world is majority of the world is very good and very optimistic, but it only takes a few people to fuck it up. And these big social media companies and these tech companies, they're doing a lot of good, but they're also doing some harm too, and they know it, but they can't backpedal now because they got too big of a nut. They have places all over the world that make these phones and make these devices and do these certain things, and they employ thousands and thousands of people. So they're not going to sacrifice their profits and affect their company just because a few people killed themselves. Come on. It's just a few people, and that's also like, as humans, we are so numb to that, where we hear these numbers, no big deal. When we see Charlie Kirk get a set, no big deal. We see
that was scary, to see that, or even just how it, regardless of how you felt about it, but just how, or even like this past December with that in New York, the CEO of that insurance company getting gunned down.
That's right, by Luigi, right? Yeah, and everyone was cheering for that.
But people were and I'm like, and even if other people were saying, like, look, guys, you're really glorifying your homicide right now.
Yeah.
Is this cause of concern? And okay, maybe this insurance guy didn't do some good, things. Sure. Maybe he did not, not going to deny that. Right. But it does cause a concern when, everyone's glorifying a murder or glorifying a homicide. And even, like I said, we saw this in the past week, too. It's like, okay, that's fine. You don't even have to agree with Charlie Kirk. You don't even have to like the guy, But, again, it just goes to show. And also, a lot of people are and I think what a lot of people are learning, the rude awakening, is the ramifications of what we post on social media can follow us and really hurt, come back to harm us. And
yeah, I mean, there's been
a lot of people learn that this week,
Yeah, there's been a bunch of people that have been fired and, all that just because of how they were celebrating what happened to him. And yeah, I mean, I would even say it's okay to hate him. It's okay to hate people. That's okay. I mean, there's a lot of people, there's family members that I hate. Like, I get it. But to wish someone harm is a different situation, right? Like, you can hate Kim Kardashian because she makes more money than you, but to be a stalker and wish her harm, those are two totally different things, right? So I think it's okay that we have these feelings and these differences, but again, to kind of loop in everything together is
and not only just wish it, but to post it, and
correct,
put it out in public, view that's a concern, and that's where I think, and again, I know people may not like what we're about to say, but that's where I think the line ends in freedom of speech, and now we want a whole nother territory right here, because
it's definitely changed a lot, and you could see it too on both sides of the aisle. And I've always been more in the middle and try to vote independent as much as I can. But it's definitely scary when now it's like you have people on the right side that want to retaliate to the left, and then eventually people on the left are going to retaliate because of that on the right. And we just can't come to an agreement, unfortunately, and it's getting worse and worse. And I don't think it's because of Obama or Biden or Trump or anybody.
No.
I think it's
not a single person's
not a single person's fault. I think if I may say so, if I may be so bold to say, I think it's our phone's fault. I think the fact, and we go back to the study that we were talking about with young girls, where suicide and depression is up. Well, a lot of people, when they're depressed, what do? They go see a psychologist. They get put on drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're too young. So now their hormones change, and now they get a little bit more aggressive than they should have. Maybe they hit puberty a little bit earlier, right? And then eventually when they're 20 years old, now they're extremely aggressive for where they should be. And they're spending all day on their phones with people that look better than them, make more money than them, go on vacations to Italy more than them. They do all these things that they are just so jealous, and they're fueled by anger and jealousy. And next thing you know, they see one too many Charlie Kirk videos and they snap. And
yeah,
it's funny because, like, if you don't have these devices, like if you don't have these phones, would we be in this situation? You could probably relate a little bit to this too, where like in the 90s, when I was 5 years old, 10 years old, like I don't remember any school shootings aside from Columbine. Like what? I don't remember assassinations besides JFK. Like there wasn't.
Well, I don't remember at all any school shootings when I was in, even after I graduated high school.
Right.
So I noticed it. And
so what's
now
the X
it's
factor?
like,
yeah.
Well,
right?
It's a technology. And also there's a process called desensitization. What that means is that the more we expose to images, violent images, the less we become disturbed, reactive towards it. So it's just like almost, especially for most Gen Zs and early millennials, it's like, okay, this is every day, and it's like an everyday occurrence. And that's why I think we're seeing these reactions in the past, because past few years and reactions to tragedies.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, it's gnarly, Albert. It's a wild time, no question about it. But I am optimistic in the.
So am I. Absolutely.
In the grand scheme of things, and I think a lot of it comes down to what we've been talking about, which is if we can get disconnected a little bit from our phones and talk to people. Like even this is great, talking to you virtually, but of course in person would be better.
Of course.
Going back to like you were talking about people wanting a text and instead of phone call. I have kind of a rule of thumb that I live by, which is if I can't see you in person, I'm going to FaceTime you. And if I can't FaceTime you, I'm going to send you a voice memo. And if I can't send you a voice memo, then I'll text you. But text needs to be the last resort because I think we're doing so much of that. And you combine that with like abbreviating stuff like BRB, OTW, like say the fucking word, okay? You got nothing going on. You got time. You're fine. You don't need to abbreviate. You don't need to shorten things up. You don't need to use text to speech. Just call me, and if you don't have my number, that means I don't like you. So, there's a lot of things I think we could do to be better human beings out there, but we have to make the effort and we have to understand that shit is going to get drastically wild in the next decade. Like it is everything that happened this past week and then things with AI and getting disconnected from people and not wanting to have conversations and the violence and dude, you need to have an inner circle of folks that you can rely on, that you can talk to. And you need to really start getting back to the good old days of like being a 90s kid and talk to people.
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely right. Yeah. And it's just the way to go. I think it's much easier and it's what we're designed to do. I mean, as human beings, our brain, we're social animals, right? So
that's right.
This is why like young children who are deprived of like physical comfort actually suffer physically, definitely physically and emotionally and cognitively. So, and we saw this especially during the lockdown in 2020. 5 years ago, when everybody had to be stayed at home, the one little thing of that was slightly a good thing. If you want to look at the advantage of, we did have Zoom, but that yeah, it gave a little bit of comfort,
Yeah.
but it we also saw a high rate of depression, alcoholism, substance use going up because we're not meant to be isolationists like this.
Yeah.
That's just going against their DNA. So that's what we're seeing also, I think, a lot of times these health problems too, and mental illnesses and disturbances, because we're not meant to be an isolated type of culture.
That's right.
We're meant to survive. That's how our species survive, by collectivism, tribalism.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we got to get back to that. So, you know, I'm hoping a lot of people, at least, we just need a little bit more than half the world to wake up. That's it. Not everybody.
Yeah.
8 billion people is a lot to ask, but just, you know, like 4 billion. 4 billion needs to figure it out, and then I think we'll be fine as a species.
We'll be fine. Absolutely, yes.
Well, listen, it's been great getting to know you, man, and
Thank you.
and talking with you. If you can, I think you probably left it for me, but just so everyone listening, I'll leave all your links in the description below of where people could find you. But you got a website, you got social media. Where can people go to find Albert?
Sure. So albertbramante.com, and also on social media. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. And
awesome.
Just look for Albert Bramante, and we're happy to connect and talk with you at any time.
Well, Dr. Albert Bramante, thanks again so much for the time, man. Appreciate you. And let's do this again. A lot more to talk about, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back on.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a great week.
Thanks. You too.